Good morning. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mention will be posted in the chat box. For those seeking business licensing assistance, you can visit the Small Business Center at City Hall or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business licenses can be applied for or renewed online at chicago.gov/business licensing. If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar. Or if you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please note that the views, information, and opinions expressed during this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection or the City of Chicago. Today's webinar will be Build a Personal Credit with a Business Loan, presented by Yessenia Diaz De Leon from Allies for Community Business, Director of Community Lending. Yessenia?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today to share some hopefully very valuable information on not only our services here at Allies for Community Business, but how all of this comes into play with personal credit and our hope that we are assisting in creating generational wealth for our communities. So I'll go ahead and share my screen to walk through our presentation, and then we can open it up for questions after. All right. Oh, apologies there. Trying to do from the beginning. Awesome. So like I said, I'm Yessenia Diaz De Leon. I am the Director of Community Lending here at A4CB. So what we are is a nonprofit micro-lending institution whose vision is that entrepreneurs from any background can start and grow great businesses that create generational wealth, as I had mentioned earlier, for their families and their communities. The way that we actually execute on this is through our mission, so our day-to-day work, which is providing the capital, coaching, and connections that entrepreneurs need to grow these businesses and create jobs and wealth in our communities. Keep those three things in mind, so capital, coaching, and connections, and so I'll dive into each of them individually momentarily. This just highlights our impact and work over the last 2 years specifically. We've dispersed $693 million. This is in combination of both lending, so our traditional in-house lending, but also grant programming that we've helped administer. We've coached 20,000 entrepreneurs throughout the states of Illinois and Indiana and funded 30,000 community businesses. Again, that number is based on a combination of both our traditional lending and also grant programming. The loan front, so the capital, we offer both term loans and lines of credit anywhere between $500 and $100,000 to early, emerging, or established businesses. So from the true startups to the mature established businesses at very fair prices. We'll get into sort of our terms and pricing in a bit. As I had mentioned, we also frequently administer or help manage grant programs in partnership with other institutions who share our mission to provide the funding that entrepreneurs need to put them to good use in our communities. On the loan front, again, it's between $500 and $100,000 as our cap, serving Illinois and Indiana businesses. Some of the things that make us very different from other lenders are that we don't use credit scores. So I know that we are going to chat about the importance of your credit history and how you can leverage a small business loan to build upon your personal credit history. However, in our analysis or algorithms, the score itself will not come into play, which is very different from our peers and other lenders. We also do not require collateral, so we don't put liens on your personal assets. We will, however, file a blanket UCC lien on the business, but no personal collateral is required. Instead, what we're going to be doing is looking at your debts over the last 2 years specifically, and evaluate how well you've managed those debts and how much cash you have available to make a payment with us. Our current interest rate right now is at 9%, which is very competitive, with a 1% closing fee. And our standard term is 24 months. So most of our loans are true working capital requests, and therefore it's 2-year terms. We can consider extending that when appropriate, depending on the use of funds. As I had mentioned, we can structure our products in 2 ways, either a term loan or a line of credit. Some of the key differences are both in use of funds and the way the repayment structure is outlined on the promissory note. So for a term loan, the client would be making fixed monthly payments of both principal and interest. Typically, these are for things like a long-term asset acquisition, facility improvements, vehicle purchases, things like that, whereas a line of credit tends to be more for true, working capital requests, inventory, payroll, and those are structured in a way where the entrepreneur makes interest-only payments for the first 12 months, and then on month 13, that balance, or if there is a balance on month 13, it would be termed out as a traditional term loan, again, with fixed monthly payments of both principal and interest. We lend up to $100,000. However, there are some distinctions in terms of how we evaluate loans up to 25 versus those greater than 25,000. So for clients seeking up to $25,000, the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the credit report. Now, as I had mentioned, we aren't looking at credit scores. However, we do have 3 key components on your credit history in the last 24 months that we're looking for. And those are ensuring that in the last 2 years, there haven't been any bankruptcies or non-medical collections or charge-offs greater than $500, that in the last 12 months, you've made on-time payments on your open trade lines, and that you currently have at least 25% availability on your revolving accounts to draw on. So essentially ensuring that you're not maxed out on credit cards. So if you meet those 3 credit criteria, then we are able to extend a pre-approval, so an offer on the spot essentially, of 1.5 times the largest monthly payment you've made in the last 12 months. So we're going to be looking for what's the largest account you've been successfully repaying on, what's that monthly payment, and extend an offer at which our monthly payment would be comparable, right? So 1.5 times however much you've demonstrated you've been able to repay in the last year. If for any reason you don't meet one of those 3 criteria, let's say there was a slow pay or late pay on your credit in the last 12 months, or maybe you don't meet that availability requirement, then we're still able to work with you. All that means is that instead of getting an approval or pre-approval as part of the application process automatically, we would prompt you to provide us some additional financial information to evaluate at which threshold we'd be able to make an offer. So we'd be collecting either your bank statements for the last 3 months, both personal and business, or your tax returns for the last 3 years, both personal and business, and do some calculations to determine at which thresholds we're able to extend an offer. Now, for clients who perhaps did have, say, bankruptcies, or do have collections or recent charge-offs on their credit report, again, we're still able to be flexible and work with these entrepreneurs with what we call a credit builder loan, which I think is very appropriate for the topic of this webinar, the idea of building or establishing or reestablishing credit. So the idea here is that we still allow for some access to capital. So these are between $500 and $2,500 for entrepreneurs who, again, don't meet that credit criteria, but are looking to build a relationship with us as a lender and have some access to capital. So all of these avenues to get to a yes ultimately, end up in a loan or line of credit that would be reported on personal credit. So we do a hard inquiry on personal credit, and ultimately do report this to personal credit. So it really is a great way to leverage your business to establish that credit on the personal side, or rebuild that credit on the personal side, since we do have to demonstrate that there is a business, that the business is active and open. So while we are able to work with a true startup business, we do require that the entrepreneur has a business bank account open for us to disperse funds to. So again, truly focused on entrepreneurship and ensuring that we're funding businesses. However, we are reporting to personal credit. So I think it's super important to highlight that, because as we know in the communities that we seek to serve, that access to capital is something that isn't always easy. So we're trying to break down some of those barriers, but also in helping build or establish credit, it opens up a lot of doors for entrepreneurs, right? So it's not just business lending, it's access to getting a car or better interest rates when you're applying for other products with other institutions. It's prepping for getting a mortgage, or just again the idea of helping build generational wealth. A lot of that starts with credit, right? And whereas we're not considering the credit score, again, that's not going to be a component for us. That credit history in the last 24 months is important. And I'll just highlight some of the reasons why we're highlighting those 24 months is because we're looking for recency. As we know, collections can stay on your report for 7 years. Same with bankruptcies will be on your report for 10 years. So we don't want that to hold our entrepreneurs back from access to capital. So we're looking for that recency and ensuring that you're able to repay on our loan. To kind of touch quickly on those loans between $25,000 and $100,000. So the credit criteria are the same. We're still looking for no bankruptcies in the last 2 years, or non-medical collections or charge-offs, on-time payments, availability thresholds. The key difference here is that in addition to meeting all 3 credit criteria, we also have to collect all 3 sets of financial documents and meet our thresholds on all 3 sets. So we collect the bank statements, the taxes, and the year-to-date financials, and we must meet our DTI or debt service coverage on all 3 sets. If you recall from my very first slide, we also offer coaching, so Capital Coaching Connections. On the coaching front, what this is free one-on-one coaching to any entrepreneur in Illinois or Indiana who wants to start or grow a business, as well as group coaching. So we'll offer online courses. We run cohort programs. One of the more notable or larger ones is the Neighborhood Entrepreneurship Lab, which y'all can kind of check that out on our website. It's a really great program for growing businesses, where we pair them up with industry experts or advisors to identify growth opportunities. These are some of the topics that our coaching team covers with entrepreneurs. So depending on the stage of your business, if you're at the really early stage or startup phases, perhaps it's things like establishing your business plan, creating your financial projections, assessing the business model, etc., figuring out your pricing strategy. If you're a more emerging business, maybe you're looking for defining the operations, improving the way you're managing your finances. And then for more established businesses, perhaps you're considering attracting investors. Maybe you're looking to secure larger contracts, get certifications, or plan for succession or acquisition. On the coaching front, we also have a coaching credit loan. So this is a way for us to really leverage our coaching offerings to be able to, again, grant some access to capital to entrepreneurs, which again affects, the reporting on credit eventually, and how that can then be leveraged for reaching other goals. So what this looks like is after successfully completing 11 coaching activities with our team, the entrepreneur would be eligible for a $2,500 loan under this coaching credit program. I should say the coaching team has a list of 36 different activities. So the slide before this just highlighted a few of them, but there is a really robust curriculum that we've developed with the coaching team for, again, early emerging or established businesses. But these 11 in particular are the areas of focus that would lead to a coaching credit loan. This kind of highlights those activities. So again, it's in many ways really targeted for more early stage businesses, businesses that are looking to establish their goals still. As I had mentioned, identify their pricing strategy, get that business plan on paper, register the legal structure, etc. So really trying to ensure that we're setting you up for success with some access to capital after completing the coaching activities with our team. The third offering I had mentioned on that first slide was connections. So again, capital, coaching, connections. On the connections front, what this looks like is kitchen space. So we are located at the Hatchery on the corner of Kedzie and Lake. At that facility, we have both shared kitchens and individual kitchens. So really meant to assist entrepreneurs in the food and beverage industry. We're also able to assist with licensing questions that clients might have as far as requirements for the city of Chicago in particular, and then also assist with getting certifications. So if you're looking to become women-owned business enterprise or a minority-owned business enterprise, we can assist with that process. And then leverage our partners, our institutional partners, to try to secure some contracts as well. I've already kind of touched on the licensing and contracts, so we can kind of skip through that one. And then these are just links to how you can learn more about our services, our loans in particular, if you're interested in scheduling a one-on-one session with a member of our team. Most of our lending team, or I should say all of our lending team, does one-on-one Calendly appointments via Teams so that we can see our clients face-to-face and really get to know their business, what challenges or opportunities they're facing, and identify a path forward for our clients. This is my direct contact info, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for a great presentation. We do already have some questions coming in. Everyone, if you do have questions, if you could please put them in the chat or the Q&A. So let's see the first question. I have good credit. However, I put all the resources into the business and now my credit is bad and I have been behind on payments to meet the business needs. I love programs like this, but for people without experience, it is quite hard to get a loan when we have a sort of done things backwards. So maybe you could just get a little background, like what's the next steps they could do?
Yeah, I think especially for these types of conversations, it's probably best to have an individual conversation to really understand, what the challenges are. But generally, as I had mentioned with our credit builder product in particular, it is very flexible in the sense that even for clients who have had those slow pays or late pays on the credit, or who do have outstanding collections, charge-offs, etc., we still are able to work with you. We're able to gather documentation to prove that you're either on payment plans or that you've gotten caught up. So we do require that before funding. So before we can disperse funds to a business bank account, we have to have proof that any past due amounts on credit reports must be current. So we can, work with you to identify how can we get there, whether it's calling the debtors to get on payment plans or payment arrangements, but we do have to ensure that the debt is current. But again, that credit builder product is very flexible in that regard, that even for clients who've had, I'd like to say, bruises on their credit, we're still able to work flexibly with them.
Great, thank you. Next question. How do you determine how well someone has manage their debt?
Great question. So that's where the 24 months of payment history comes into play that I had mentioned on the loan slide. So we're looking for recency, right? So it's in the last 12 months, have there been on-time payments on your open trade lines? Have there been any, again, non-medical collections or charge-offs? Because we do exclude any medical collections if applicable, to determine what's that recency in credit repayment history and get a feel for the ability to repay. So it is still a hard inquiry on your credit, so that we can pull that credit history. But again, the score isn't evaluated. It's the last 24 months that we're looking at.
Great. Someone's asking if you could please post your contact information again. And then while
Yep,
you're
will
doing
do.
that, do you work with CBD companies?
We do not, unfortunately.
Another question. Will all the loans offered by Allies for Community Business report to our personal credit?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any loans that don't report to personal credit? I am in the process of purchasing a home and cannot add new things to my credit.
All of our loans would report to personal credit. So we would have them on personal credit, and we would also be filing a blanket UCC lien on the business, which is important to note because even though that's not a personal credit, having a UCC lien on the business can also impact, in some cases, clients' ability to access other loans with, say, banks or other financial institutions. So just want to be very transparent about that because we do place a lien on the business as well. So it's from the business side, similar to having, an inquiry on the personal. And I did put my contact info in the chat.
Yes, I just copy and pasted it to everyone.
Oh, okay.
Next question. I filed bankruptcy in 2020. Is eligibility for the credit builder loan 2 years after it has been discharged or after I filed?
So the credit builder actually, we have been able to work with clients who are in active Chapter 13 if we have documentation from the courts that they're able to take on additional debt. So the 24-month period is after it's been discharged to qualify for something greater than a credit builder. So even for those clients who were just recently discharged, we're able to consider a credit builder, and in some cases for those who are again in active Chapter 13, we can have conversations with them to ensure that this makes sense for them personally and for the business, to consider a credit builder. So that is something that we've done in the past as well.
Great, thanks. Do you advise businesses in the spirit space?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the businesses in
the spirit space? If whoever asks the question wants to clarify on that, that would be great. Next question. Are walk-ins available at the hatchery for business consultation, or should reservations be made online first?
So for the hatchery in particular, if we're referring to kitchen space, we would ask that you reach out to the hatchery directly to schedule appointments. They do virtual tours of the space, and do have designated team members for, again, the hatchery, if we're referring to kitchen spaces. If the question is more so on A4CB side, we do allow for walk-in clients on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between 10 and 3.
Great, thanks. Would I be able to roll my personal credit under a business line of credit in order to make my credit line for my business attractive?
Roll personal credit into a business line of credit?
Yes. So would I be able to roll my personal credit under a business line of credit in order to make my credit line for my business attractive?
That's an interesting one. So that isn't something that we would do at A4CB, since again, all of our loans are personally guaranteed. That would more so be something that potentially a bank partner or other financial institution might consider. I would say generally, debt consolidation or moving debt from one place to another, some of the key questions that we ask and that other partners ask are ensuring that that this financially is viable and makes sense for the business, and that we're ultimately putting you in a better position in terms of cash flow. So we've actually seen in some cases the opposite on our end, where we'll have a client who has some business debt, or in some cases like merchant cash advance debts that they're trying to consolidate because they have daily payments or weekly payments at very high interest rates. So they'll work with us to try to consolidate that, to have one fixed monthly payment with us, reporting on their personal credit. So for us, it's almost kind of the opposite in some cases. But again, that is very rare, since most of our loans are true working capital requests, and the purpose really isn't often to consolidate or kind of move debt around, unless we can demonstrate that it's putting the client in a better cash flow position, especially in those cases where there could be some predatory lending going on.
Another question, do you lend to real estate investors?
So we do not lend for the purpose of speculative investments, and within that falls like real estate flipping, that we will not lend to based on our credit policy. We can lend to like real estate management companies or property management companies, but not speculative investments or real estate flipping.
Great. And then a follow-up question to, do you advise businesses in the spirit space? I believe they meant liquor.
Yes. Yes, we can offer both coaching and lending. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there an age requirement for the business?
For the entrepreneur, 18 and up. For the business, we work
yeah,
with true startup businesses.
Yeah, I think it meant startup. Yeah.
Yeah. We work with true startup businesses, even if you haven't started yet.
Wonderful. Does your organization assist with filing business taxes, or do you partner with one that does?
So we do not. Our coaching team can assist with answering basic questions, but on the coaching team, they do work directly with other organizations or partners that can help with tax filings in particular.
Great. Please revisit again average interest rates for your product.
Yep. So it's just one fixed interest rate for all of our products. It's 9%, 9% interest with a 1% closing fee.
Okay, great. Do you lend to logistic companies, trucking companies?
Yes, we do.
Does a line of credit or loan also report on your business credit report as well as your personal credit? I may have missed your explanation.
It does not. So we only report to personal credit.
How soon can I reach out to get started? I love that one.
You can reach out to me today.
That's a great question. Let's see. I will give everyone another minute or two to put any other questions. Again, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Contact information is in the chat. I think we are good, Yessenia. I do not see any other. Oh, do you consider co-signers?
We do. So we actually require anyone with 20% or more ownership in the business to be included as a signer on the loan. However, we can also include a co-signer that does not have ownership in the business if they live in the same household as the primary applicant or primary owner.
Great, thank you. We'll give everyone one more minute.
I think I saw something about the $2,500 if it's online.
Yeah, the courses for $2,500, are they online.
Yeah, I assume it's regarding the coaching credit loan. So all of that is online via individual Calendly or Teams sessions with our coaching department.
Great. Is there an application or did we just simply call or email?
So there is an online loan application. Depending on if you're interested in coaching, capital connections, actually the portal is all the same. So it's a4cb.loanwall.com, which I can drop in the chat. The very first question on that landing page, loanwall.com, will ask an entrepreneur if you're interested in coaching or lending. Depending on how you answer that question, it'll take you through a different workflow. If your end goal is coaching, you'll end up on a coach's calendar. If your end goal is lending, you'll end up authorizing your credit pool and being connected to one of our community lenders.
Great, thank you. A few questions. Yes, this is being recorded and will be posted on BACP's YouTube page, youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. Do you help with funding for pre-orders if you are a new company?
Yes.
Another question on recording. I think that is all the questions. You know, as soon as I say that, one more pops in. But I think that is all the questions. Yessenia, thank you so much as always for some great information. Everyone's saying great information.
So sorry, I saw
cannabis again.
Cannabis question. Yeah, we do not lend to cannabis industry.
I think that's all. Well, everyone, thank you for joining. I hope everyone has a safe and great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.